Do-de-doo-doo. Hey there, audit and fraud friends and family. Listen, I got a question for you. Have you ever been doing something where everything seemed like it was on the right track? Everything was going according to plan, and then all of a sudden you hit a hiccup, a bump in the road, as it were, and everything just derailed? Everything just derailed from that point forward. If you have, let me know in the comments. Let's share some stories on that because today what we're going to talk about is, well, you saw the title, Off the Rails, when benefits become a payday. And if you want to know what that really means, stick around because we will unravel the story. Everybody ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right, you heard my opening question. Have you ever been doing something where everything looked smooth and then all of a sudden it just derailed? You thought you were going down the right road and all of a sudden you were thrown off track. So before we dive into it, let's bring her up. She's back this week, 2 weeks in a row. She decided she could put up with me this week too.
I feel like I'm not fulfilling my commitment here.
Oh no. Anytime you can put up with me, you fulfilled your commitment. It's a rough job. I understand that.
No, I look forward to this. This is a nice break when I have the time and the capacity. So, I mean, who doesn't like talking about fraud?
Yeah. Well, and Marsha is here. She says, hey, everyone, back from the wilderness. Now, Marsha, let me ask you something. I saw the open to work badge on your profile. Are you looking for a job? If so, what are you looking for? Drop it in the chat because you never know. Someone might see it that has an opening for you. So drop it in the chat. She said, long time no see.
I know. Yeah, definitely share that. Even on LinkedIn. I know if I see it come across my feed, I share it. I'm sure you do too, Robert. I do. If I see
She said she is looking for a job. Now, Marsha's over on YouTube, you guys. If you hadn't subscribed to the YouTube channel, just go and subscribe. Okay. I got a question for you, Christine.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been on an Amtrak before?
No, but my husband and I were looking, but it's expensive.
It is. So my uncle tells me that it's one of those things I have to do one day before I die. He said that the trek from, I think it's California to Chicago, has some really beautiful scenic views, and that it's something that everyone should do to see the best parts of America.
And we were looking on that specific track. But I think we were going to go all the way over to, we were going to go up to Washington because that's where he is initially from.
Yeah.
But my husband's extremely tall, and to get a cabin for both, for him just to lay in, because it's overnight, it's expensive. But you're right. It's like a once in a lifetime thing. I think you probably know.
That's what I've been told. I'm told that you go actually around or through mountains and that you see these beautiful views. And then you stop in these small towns where you can have experiences that you otherwise wouldn't be able to see. So.
Yeah. No, I think we're going to look at it, but we've got a wish list between that and doing a cruise. I don't know. Someday.
Do the Amtrak. I mean, did you see the latest news story about the cruise where these people were banned from Carnival Cruise Line for life because they, at the port of entry, coming back into the U.S. Texas, I think it was, they started fighting in the terminal.
No, I did not.
Oh, wow.
The only thing I can think of when it comes to the cruise lines is, oh my gosh, why do I feel it was like 2017? Remember that Carnival cruise got stuck out in the ocean?
Oh, I remember that too.
The poop
Yeah.
cruise, I think is what they ended up calling it. Like,
Yep. That's what they ended up calling it. I've been on a couple of cruises. They're okay, but the Amtrak, I really want to do that. Now, I will say, if you live in the Northeast, and say if you live in North New Jersey, maybe even Central New Jersey, right outside of New York City, you will probably take the train into work, and it will be the Amtrak. I've taken the Amtrak from BWI, Baltimore Washington Airport, down to Washington, D.C. I have a cousin that lives in the D.C., well, the Maryland, D.C. area, the DMV area, and she takes the train into work every day. So she drives her car to the train station, pays for parking on her car, and pays for the train. Those trains aren't as nice as the ones that take you across the country with the scenic views, but they do have Wi-Fi in them so that you can work.
I think they added one from Milwaukee to Chicago too. So yeah, so there was I worked for a company that would have to travel down to Chicago to do some audits. And my aunt was telling me, she's like, oh, just take the Amtrak from Milwaukee to Chicago. It's the easiest thing, but sounds bad. I'm not sure of it. I've never had to do it. So it makes me scared to experiment on my ability to navigate something I haven't had to do before.
There's some good news now. Nowadays, you can go on their website and you can see how much the tickets cost. I think you can even order them online beforehand now. And then you can see what time you need to get there, what time it'll get you to your destination. You can even map out the parking. You got to pay for parking too. So you got to pay for parking, then you have to pay for the train. But I will say it does save time sometimes. There are people who work in New York City but live outside of the city, and they take the train into work. I had a buddy. Well, I still have a buddy. I have a buddy who worked for an organization one time. He lived in North Jersey, and he would take the train into work, but he would work on the train before he actually got to work. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he would work on the way home because the train has Wi-Fi on it. So, you know, it's a decent thing.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. Time is money.
Yeah, yeah. Did you know, though, that Amtrak was owned by the federal government? So,
nope. Never even heard of that. Never.
They get pretty good benefits because of that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's privatized somewhat, right? Mm-hmm. And let's see, I'm trying to look up oh, never mind. I'll see if I can look up what I was trying to say during the show. But back in the 1916s, when it was first built, a lot of the U.S. traveled based on railway. About 90% of commercial intercity travelers moved by rail. And now, of course, it's a whole lot less. But because it is a governmental agency or quasi-governmental agency, they get audited by the Office of Inspector Generals for the federal government, right? For waste and abuse. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So now imagine you're an employee on Amtrak. You get really good benefits. I think they get a pension too. So it's unlike CSX where you actually have to, compete on the free market. You kind of have built-in job security unless there's some cuts made. And I'm told they make fairly decent salaries too. So that means that everybody should really be happy to have a job, and there shouldn't be any.
Yeah, they get their pensions through the railroad.
There you go.
That is a good pension. That is.
Yeah, it's a very good. I saw the look on your face when I said it too. Yeah.
Yeah. All of a sudden I looked and they're like, oh, you are part of the railroad. And I'm going, I know for a fact those individuals get paid well, only because I've had experience dealing with people who worked on the railroad, and they like the hours because you're gone for long periods of time, but they said the benefits were really worth it.
Well, and most of those jobs are fairly dangerous too, especially if it's not an administrative role, if you're out on the front lines. And so some people get hazard pay.
Yeah. They get educational assistance, additional benefits, including affordable access to voluntary auto and home insurance, identity theft, pet insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Railroad Retirement Board.
There you go. Yeah. So it's a very important fixture in the US. I wish we had more trains that took us to some places. Um, like over in Japan, they have the bullet trains that just man, could you imagine?
Maybe someday I will go and just do it for the bullet train. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. So imagine you're working for Amtrak and you get injured on the job.
Okay. I'm guessing that happens quite a bit. I mean, you're dealing
Yeah.
with trains. It's not like the safest job in the world, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, that would happen quite a bit. And then you would have to go to the doctor in order to be seen. And since you have good health insurance, they would make sure that you were taken care of. And surely your doctor wouldn't bribe you, right? To with like drugs or Oxycontin or anything like that to use your personal identifiable information to submit false medical claims, right? That wouldn't.
I don't know how it would be brought up during my visits, but I mean, I guess if I had a drug problem, do you know what I'm saying? Like if you happen to have somebody who goes in that already has an addiction to pain pills or something along that lines, I think it would be easier, but how would a doctor bring that up during a visit?
I don't know. Like, hey, I see that you hurt your back. Want some oxy? I mean,
I guess.
That could be one way. Now, Michael is saying, hey, Mike, what's going on, man? Michael says, my wife and I rode an Amtrak from Washington, D.C. to New York City, and it was so fun. Yeah, it is. It is pretty fun. And then he said, let's see what happened. Except we got the quiet car. Oh, being the Alabama hillbillies, not knowing what that meant. And we were just talking to each other and others as we were boarding. Someone told us that quiet car was, and we found a different car. Yeah.
I wouldn't have known there was a quiet car unless there was a sign before you walked in that said no talking.
Yeah. Some people just, some people just want to get her done,
Yeah.
So yeah, they have really good benefits. The train is a good place to work, especially if you're traveling in the Northeast, because it actually is quite efficient. And what happens on the quiet car though is it's a designated car where passengers are asked to limit the conversation and they're asked to speak in some really quiet, subdued tones. And that's where a lot of people do their work. But if you're injured, surely your doctor wouldn't bribe you with oxy. I mean, that just shouldn't happen, wouldn't happen. But okay. Let's just say if that didn't happen, suppose you are an acupuncturist. They get paid pretty decent money, right? An acupuncturist. I think that's kind of a part of like physical therapy. Don't they you ever had acupuncture before?
No, I guess my acupuncture is my tattoos. But I've never went
all right, so let's ask the audience. Anybody ever had acupuncture before? I've never had it. Something about looking like Pinhead from Hellraiser it just brings back some bad memories for me. So I don't think I ever want acupuncture. But I'm told it's very effective. But I do think acupuncturists get paid. If you've ever had acupuncture, was it expensive? I'm just curious. Anybody listening, if you've ever had acupuncture, was it expensive? Because surely an acupuncturist wouldn't ask you if they could use your personally identifiable information so that they could submit fraudulent medical claims, surely that wouldn't happen, right? It's just,
I think there's a part of me, I'm like, how does that come up in conversation? Like, we sit here and we talk about, your internal controls and everything else, but you always have to worry about two individuals conspiring together to go ahead and do that. I'm just looking at it this, like, I don't work with my doctor. So it's not like I think in order to get two people to do this together, there would have to be some level of trust where you're constantly seeing this person. I mean, really, would you trust just a patient walking in and being like, hey, I'm going to give you this if you let me do this?
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking sometimes con artists know how to put feelers out. And if you respond a certain way, then they know how to take it further. So they ask you questions that could be taken one of several different ways. And depending on how you respond, that's when they move forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like, asking personal questions. I mean, if you find out that your client is pretty hard up for money, does that make the approach for the scam that much easier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. Because, wait, now see, Marsha's saying, yes, Rob, con artists are very articulate in asking the question. Yeah. So because I'm sure in some of our daily dealings with people, we've all come across people who have been sizing us up, trying to see what they could get us to do with them and or for them. And based on our response, they have either pushed forward or have backed off. Like, well, okay, I'll give I don't even know if I should give this example, but it's the only one that I can think of right now. So most people have been to Vegas at least once, right?
Oh, yes. I'm thinking I know where you're going, but I'm going to wait.
And when you were in Las Vegas, and so there was a story that happened like a year ago, maybe about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. There was a gentleman who was in Las Vegas and he got robbed. A young woman robbed him. Well, here's the thing. Apparently, the gentleman was at the table playing blackjack or craps or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman saw him, targeted him, and apparently she was an escort.
Okay, I was thinking this is the way it was going to go, but.
Yeah, she made her way up to his room, and then some people that were with her ended up coming into the room and robbing him.
Ooh.
Here's where it gets even more interesting, though. The man's wife ended up trying to sue the casino because they were saying that the casino shouldn't have had these women wandering around. So think about this. I've been to Vegas quite a few times. I've never had anyone try to solicit me on the floor of the casino. Now, probably because I look broke. I don't look rich. I don't have like a Rolex on or anything like that. Who knows? But what I'm saying is people find a way to target individuals. So I guess if you were a doctor, when the patient comes in, you would start asking them certain questions to try and figure out if they are a good mark or not.
Well, and keep in mind, it is not hard to find good marks in Vegas.
Yeah. And then Shree says, and a con artist will make you believe they are your best friend. And then Marsha says, also referral to the con artist provider. I mean, okay.
Shree makes a good point, though. Just it coincides even with your Las Vegas story. Yeah. That woman made that guy feel like they were best friends.
Yeah. Or something. Yeah. Some kind of friends, special friends.
I am not judging out loud. Come on.
Okay. So now let's go back to today's story, though. Amtrak, as a part of being a federal agency, a part of the federal government, they have an Office of Inspector General. And these are just auditors, right?
Yeah.
The OIG, Office of Inspector General, they said they did an investigation and they said that employees based in Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Connecticut, and Washington, D.C. accepted kickbacks from at least 3 healthcare providers in exchange for the use of their information and the information of their dependents in a scheme that lasted from 2019 until 2022. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. They're saying that overall, the taxpayer-funded railroad carrier's health plan was billed for more than $16 million and was built out of $12 million.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy, right?
It is. And I know, like, we sit here and we talk amount of money. So, like, even when I was reading the story, I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of money, right? But Amtrak's a huge organization. So what is, if you were an accountant or a controller and you're looking at your budgetary finance month over month for changes, over that span of time for that large of an organization, does it set off any red flags if it's more of a manual rather than automated review process?
Ooh, we're getting there.
Oh.
Because I think you may have missed part of the story. Okay, so let's talk about how they found this fraud, because I think that this is very timely, considering May is Internal Audit Awareness Month. Because some people think that internal auditors just count the beans and we do accounting work. We do not do accounting work. So let's talk about what the Office of Inspector General actually did. What they did was they went undercover as an Amtrak employee named Susie. So now here's what Susie did. Susie. Oh, wait, hold on. An undercover agent. The agent wasn't named Susie. Sorry. An undercover agent. Let's just say Agent 1. Agent 1 went undercover to an acupuncturist office in Long Island City. During the visit, the agent was asked by the doctor if he could sign his name 30 times on a document without dating the signature. The agent did this, and the doctor billed Amtrak's healthcare plan, saying that the agent had visited several times in May of 2021. And then on one visit, when the agent returned to the office, the doctor's office allegedly handed him an envelope with $1,000 in it. So for $1,000, he put his signature on some documents that the doctor's office then used allegedly to bill the healthcare plan fraudulently for acupuncture visits.
How dare you?
I sometimes I just sit here and wonder, like, how would you ever think that this would get away? Because it wasn't like it was just this in the undercover. I'm guessing there was hundreds of employees that were helping to siphon this amount of money. Because how much does an acupuncturist cost? What is a session? $100? $200? I guess I chalk it up to kind of like the same cost as like what a chiropractor would be.
That's what I'm thinking, right? I mean, I don't know. Here's where it gets even more interesting. They're saying that at least 119 employees and doctors took the railroad for a ride, so to speak. I need a rim shot here, right? That would have been a good place for a rim shot. But instead, we'll just go 119 employees and doctors.
119 over a total of what, 3 years? 12 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so on average, just under 100,000 a piece, but you know the employees weren't getting that.
It appears as though they were only getting envelopes filled with $1,000 to have their signatures used. Oh, but it gets even better. I got two things where you're going to be like, what in the world? Here's the first. Of the 119 employees, 28 retired or resigned as a result of the OIG's investigation.
Okay.
30 of them left the company for quote unquote other reasons. Yeah. Now, a dozen of them have been criminally charged, and 7 of them have pleaded guilty and are awaiting sentencing. But here's the big kicker. 61 of them are still on the job.
I mean, I don't know. How does that look to management? I guess I would probably want to know why, but that is a big risk to take. I understand, let's say they're worried about short staffing. Like if that is their reason, I could see that being a potential reason, but that's a pretty big risk.
That's a high number of employees who have potentially committed a fraud, right?
And I don't know if there's any type of bond insurance or something like that, or type of company insurance that covers employees in case they do they do theft of the company or something. But your insurance ain't going to pay for any of that if they know you're retaining 60 employees who, committed a crime.
Yeah. But to your point, though, this is the ultimate case of risk management, right? Because if you let 60 people go, if you let them go prematurely and some of them are innocent, they're going to sue you. Also, if you let them go and a train crashes, then people are going to say you had unskilled people and you're going to get sued. It's the ultimate juggling act from a management standpoint, talking about risk management, right?
So you said there was 119, 60 are still working there, 28 retired, 30 left the company. That just leaves the doctor. 118 were employees. It was one doctor.
It was more than one doctor, though. It was more than one doctor. I just told you about the one acupuncturist. Now, Marsha is saying, well, at least the invoice was legit. One case she saw some time ago, the invoices were doctored, and unfortunately, the fraudster didn't know that the RMT doesn't work on the days that she allegedly was there. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, wow. Oh, that is insane. Wow. Okay, so the one doctor that we're talking about, one of the doctors that we're talking about here, he has pleaded guilty, and let me see. Darn it, I think I lost it. Oh, here we go. He recruited Amtrak employees to participate in the scheme by paying them, as I said earlier, and it is estimated that he submitted false and fraudulent claims that caused Amtrak to lose $1.6 million just himself. So the one doctor, $1.6 million. Another thing, though, was, when they caught up to him, he unlawfully had a firearm with him because he had already been convicted of a crime that would have taken away his right to bear arms in the U.S.
I mean, if you're going to go down.
Let me introduce you to my little friend.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh goodness. Okay, yeah. Well, okay.
You're
So
gonna make
and
a
listen,
statement.
so he let's see, where is it? Okay. So he is being charged with the conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and unlawful possession of a firearm, and each carries a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine, or or twice the gross gain or loss from the offense, whichever is greater. So at 1.9 million, whatever twice that is, whoo, hello. I see you
3.8?
add.
3.8?
I don't know, heck. My math brain is off right now.
Oh, yep. And I just found where the sentences were carried out. You are right. It was more than one doctor.
Oh yeah, it was more than one.
Three.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just counting 4. It was 4 medical people.
Ah.
What?
But we're not done yet, folks, because here's where it gets even more interesting, at least in my opinion, especially considering May is Internal Audit Awareness Month. They were warned about this on a few occasions. Amtrak, that is, was warned by the Office of Inspector General, the OIG, the auditors. They were warned in 2018 and 2019.
Yeah. I should have done more research on this. I'm reading it and my mind's just going bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Like there was threatening injuries to healthcare providers.
Oh, wait, I didn't see that. Hold on. Wait a minute. What happened?
So you said your undercover agent went back to Figueroa's office. So the initial one that I thought was the only medical, the following month, and Figueroa handed them an envelope stuffed with $1,000 in cash. The 2 of the scam's ringleaders were responsible for recruiting Amtrak employees to participate, the probe found. The pair also admitted to investigators they threatened to injure a healthcare provider unless so-and-so was paid his cut of thousands of dollars. I mean, come on. This is New Jersey we're talking about.
I completely, I see what you did there. I completely missed that part. You know what? And that probably explains why the doctor had the gun.
Probably.
Holy.
The thing is that kills me is like one of the sentences that was, she pled guilty. 3 years supervised release for $9 million.
Yeah. I did see that one. This person, $9 million, and they got supervised release, whereas the dude who had the gun and only did $1 million is possibly going to face 10 years in prison.
Yeah. So are you talking about Muhammad Mirza from New Jersey, the doctor?
Oh, no, the Dr. Figueroa. He's the one that had the handgun too.
Oh, yeah. Figueroa pled guilty to fraud last fall and was sentenced to 3 years of supervised release. But the gun charges could be completely different.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there a lady too who got supervised release as well? There was a lady as well.
Figueroa. That was Susie.
Oh, okay.
Then you
I don't
had
know why I thought. Okay.
Yeah, then you have the 2 other, Bert and Gelzer. They were the ones that threatened to injure the healthcare provider. And then an additional doctor from New Jersey was ordered to serve 26 months in prison for his role in the scheme and was ordered to pay back $1.37 million. So how would that make you feel? You took 1.37 and had to sit almost 2 years over 2 years in prison. Somebody else took $9 million and got 5 years of supervised release. Should have got
right?
Yeah, should have got that attorney.
And think about this too. The one who got the supervised release is also the one who had the gun.
Yeah.
The one who didn't have the gun got the prison time.
Oh, there was a podiatrist involved. There was a medical biller involved.
Yep. Okay, now, here's where it gets even more interesting, because I said that they were warned by the Office of Inspector General. And here's where I'm going to try and be nice about this, but I don't know if I can be. So, wait a minute. Let me see if I can get my documentation ready.
All you have to do is just say no offense in front of it, and then they can't take offense. That's what I've heard.
Right. That's
a statement.
Oh God, that's what the kids say now. No offense, and I'm like,
you're about to say something very rude.
Yeah, but again, the Office of Inspector General tried to warn them. However, you've seen me on my other podcast, Audit Bites. You've heard me talk about my audit training. And you know how I feel about auditors who can't communicate properly. Auditors who produce audit reports that are unnecessarily long, or worse yet, auditors who don't follow up when they have issues to report. Those are some of my biggest pet peeves. So what I did was I found the actual audit report.
Oh, you did.
So this report was from March 14th of 2018. Governance, opportunities to improve controls over medical claim payments. Now, here's the first problem that I have. Opportunities to improve controls over medical claims. If you read this report, they directly say that some of the transactions look fraudulent. They directly said they had a dollar amount too. And they said that management needs to look into X number of transactions for X dollar amount. That's the kind of warning that they gave way back in 2018.
Wow. This isn't the first time we've heard of auditors, CPA firms, people saying, hey, there's an issue with this. And people just going, WorldCom, Enron.
True. But here's my biggest pet peeve. This report is 33 pages long.
That's not very long. I would have thought an AIG report would be way longer.
Okay. Here is the memorandum, transmittal letter, whatever the heck you want to call it. From the calendar year of 2013 to 2015, Amtrak, the company, paid about $692 million in medical costs under the group health plan for agreement employees from its operating budget. This includes $167 million, about 24%, in claims paid to about 151,000 individual medical service providers, such as physicians, nurses. Okay, you've already put me to sleep. Then it says the Federal Bureau of Investigation estimates that 3 to 10% of all healthcare expenditures are fraudulent. Okay, what's that got to do with me right now? Then it says in July of 2017, the Department of Justice and Health and Human Services led a nationwide sweep that resulted in criminal and civil charges against 412 individuals. Okay, for real, what does that have to do with us right now, right? Now, then finally, we get down to the results of their audit. The company has opportunities to improve its controls for mitigating risk, fraud, claims in the medical services. We found that the company appears to be identifying only a small portion of potential. Okay, what is the issue? I'm all the way in here yet already, and I still don't know what the issue is. Now, let's see, we go down further. It says, for example, the company's primary claim administrator identified less than 1% of claims it processed from 2013 to 2015 as fraudulent. Okay, is that good or bad? In contrast, we found that about 14% of medical claims we examined for that same period had billing patterns indicative of potential fraud. Specifically, we identified 504 providers with billing patterns indicative of potential fraud, and we are questioning whether $23 million in claims the company paid to these providers was proper. Rule number one, tell people what they need to know fast, immediately, right? So we dig in a little deeper. Oh, we just get into the background. Okay. We still got the background coming here. What the heck? Okay. So now, and hopefully if anyone is watching and you work in this department, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just saying, this is wild. I'm doing this as an educational opportunity to internal auditors. If you really want to understand why your clients don't act on the reports that you give them, this is one good reason why. They can't understand what the heck it is that you're trying to tell them. Okay, so let's see. Let's go down a little further. Okay, here on page 7, weak medical plan controls put the company's funds at risk. The company has weak controls for preventing and detecting potential fraud in medical claim payments made to individual. Good God. And we're still going on and on. It's not until, let's see, here they talk about Aetna and Tufts. Those were a couple of the plans. Right. Let's see. Okay. Now on page 9, we get down to what one of the potential issues is. The HR benefits group has not assessed the effectiveness of Aetna's controls.
I guess here's my thing. So me being in vendor management, right? I would sit here and think if I was working for Amtrak over their vendor management program, I wouldn't consider our health insurance as a critical vendor. They don't hold any of other than our employee data. But if something would happen to them, it wouldn't be hard for us to get a new provider. So there's a part of me that's going, would they be looking at Aetna's internal controls or SOX reporting as part of their vendor management? Keep in mind, I don't work for a company the size of Amtrak, so I'm sure there's higher standards for them.
Well, you would at least have some sort of, and what they go on to say in here is they should have had some way of ensuring that the insurance company was monitoring its medical claims for fraud. You'd build that into your contractual agreements, right? So I do get that. Then it says the HR benefits group is not independently analyzing its medical claims data. Yeah. That's a bit of a stretch. I would want to rely on my vendor to do that, and I would put the controls on the vendor, and I would have them give me some sort of report on how they are measuring it. And then Muhammad Amir is here, and he says, too long report takes the whole day to get to the real issue. Muhammad, we hadn't even gotten there yet, to your point. Yeah, right, exactly. So let's see. We go, here we go. Now on page 10, billing patterns appear to indicate potential fraud. Then it says, we identified billing patterns in the provider's claims that may indicate potential fraud against the company's medical plan. Using a risk-based approach, we focused our analysis. Who cares? What are the items that you found? What are some of the indicators that you use? And could you help us to actually build in the monitoring that you have so that we can use it going forward? This gives a kind of us against them. Anyway, again, I am criticizing what has happened, and hopefully you don't take it personally. This is just real. Hell, using a risk-based approach, we focused our analysis on 890 individual medical service providers, less than 1% of about 151,000 individual providers. Why do I care? What I want to know is, what parameters did you use? How effective are those parameters? And can I use them to actually analyze my entire population? Thank you. Give me the query that you use so that you can help me to do it now. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to. Now we have a graph. Graphs are good. I mean, because this is a true indication of the transactions that they came up with. We're still going down more. Geez, good God. And here they talk about a podiatrist charged $190 for a 15-minute patient office visit compared with an average of $59 by all providers. So what they did some really good data analysis. So what they did was they saw that on average, the charge was $59 for most providers. And this one was charging 190. So they were charging above and beyond what the average of the other providers were charging. These are great data analytics. But what that tells me is the follow-up must have been subpar. Because if that were me, I would have said, okay, here are the queries that I used. Let's have some sort of memorandum of understanding internally where you can use the tools that we've used, and then we can hand them over to you at certain points. And now you're responsible for them because now I've just helped my business unit.
But if you look on page 17, prior audit reports, it's the bottom of 17. The following reports were relevant to our work. Like, this doesn't seem like this is the first time the AIG's brought this up.
Yeah, doesn't seem that way, does it? Governance control, avoid duplicate medical payments, July 15th of 2016, 2015, 2014, 2017. Okay. Let me just say this. First, kudos on good work, right? Because you now disclose the issue. Here's where you find red tape in organizations, though, because I can almost guarantee you that the oh God, what are they? I forgot the term for the chief auditor for the OIG, the chief inspector general or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can almost bet that this person kept trying to push it up the line and kept getting a whole bunch of pushback. I was a chief auditor, so I understand the corporate politics and stuff. So kudos on finding it and keep trying to call it out, because you can see here there's a history of finding this crap, right? That's insane. And then in the appendix, they actually showed specific examples. And I'm not mad at that being in the appendix, because that's cool. That's really where it belongs. But I will say in this report, it took too long to get to it. Look, we looked at X number of, items. X number are potentially fraud for a potential impact of X dollar amount on our organization. And if we extrapolate that amongst the entire population, it could be X dollar amount. Bam. I mean, we have got to take some accountability and responsibility for the information that we put out to our clients. We can't just be mad when there's inaction if our communication is bloated.
Yeah, I try to use bullet points. I don't know if everybody else does.
Oh, wait, and here's another one. This is management comments. Okay. Hey, look at this. This one had a target completion date of 7/31 of 2018, where the VP of Human Resources and the Director of Benefits said regular assessment and analysis of operational data. Hold on. Management agrees with this recommendation and will consider implementing and leading practices discussed where appropriate.
They considered it. They met their deadline.
There you go. They considered it. Here's the second recommendation. Consider reviewing claims submitted by the medical service providers we identified for risk of potential fraud. And it says management agrees and will conduct a cost benefit analysis and consider directing additional review of claims. Oh, it's still considered. Now, here we go where I talk all the time about weak recommendations and weak management action plans.
Mm-hmm.
They considered it. So now what were the results when you considered it? What did you come up with? In the follow-up, what happened? Let me just stop before this ends up being an Audit Bites episode or a training session. This is
Free training.
Marsha says, sorry, the plan admin should be monitoring the plan usage for certain benefits. Well, and I'll add to that, especially after they had been flagged, because this is money that you could actually recoup. This is money that would come back to the organization. And let's just be real. A lot of people were complaining about Doge when Trump had Elon Musk come in. But this is an example of why Doge probably needed to be around to a certain extent. You can be mad at how they did it, but the what behind it, let's just be honest. There's some fraud, waste, and abuse.
Yeah.
let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me just get this straight. We had a 33-page audit report for 3 recommendations.
Makes me want to look at the audit recommendations now.
And then Michael said he's having to drop off, but he enjoyed the discussion. So it was good to have you here, Michael. Muhammad, are you still here? Did you see that at the end, Muhammad? Muhammad says too long of a report. They only had 3 recommendations in a 33-page report for 3 recommendations. By the way, if you want to learn how to write better, crisper audit reports, call me up. We can do some training. And that's just not just this group, anybody listening to this.
Correct.
That was insane. I'm actually surprised by that. I didn't even see that part. I missed that previously. Wow, that's nuts. That is absolutely 100% nuts. Somebody's going to be mad that I showed this report on the air. They're going to be like, why did he do that?
I mean,
we work hard. Huh?
I pulled it up in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's public, right? But still, it's one of those things. I probably shouldn't have said it. The thing is, again, I'm being very constructive. I haven't called anybody any names. I haven't, said you are something, something, something. I haven't done any ad hominem arguments. Truthfully, prove me wrong on a few points. A, this report is too long. B, it took too much to try and get to the point. C, it didn't have strict accountability for what the true issues were. D, the follow-up, what happened? Because we already saw on page, 17, where this had been mentioned on at least 5 other occasions. We got issues here.
Yeah. And I know follow-up, making sure people pay attention to those audit findings is probably, seems as a case study more than following up with teams and individuals. I know it's not the most fun part of auditing. But I mean, you got to be honest. If I had an audit finding, it's not the first thing that I want. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not really like eager to get these things done because we know it takes additional time and effort and stuff away from our normal job duties. Sometimes I'm also thinking some of these individuals are afraid what they're going to find when they have to start digging a little deeper. And they're scared of the negative things that are going to kind of, do you know what I'm saying? Are they walking through a field full of unknown landmines and they're just hoping they don't step on one?
Yeah, well, and to dig down deeper in the point that you're making is some of them may be afraid that they might lose their job if they do the right thing. If you do your job, you could lose your job. And that happens quite a bit. But Muhammad says this seems like a case study rather than an audit report. And then he says, few recommendations means few findings. So why do we need 33 pages? Right? That's like, again. And I think the part that's upsetting me a little bit more is that these were our tax dollars that were wasted. Mm-hmm. And to the point, to the credit for the audit department, right? In their credit, they only looked at, what did they say? 17% of the population or something like that. And they found millions of dollars. What if the management team would have been forced to look at 100% of the population? Now, they did try and hold the vendor accountable too. I saw where they said when they renew the contract with the vendor, make sure that they have measures in place to review transactions for fraud, because that is where I would go to as well. So part of this was contract management and vendor management, right? Because that should have been embedded in the contract. But if you didn't think your vendor had adequate controls, they were absolutely right. Somebody should have been monitoring this. Imagine someone telling you, hey, somebody's stealing $1 million from us a year and you just do nothing. You could have asked your supervisor for what, $100,000 to buy some sort of software in order to recoup $1 million. You'd have had a $900,000 profit. I'm just saying that's wicked to me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad it all got uncovered, but I mean,
but did it all get uncovered? It didn't. There's still more.
And are they ever going to see that 9 million?
Ooh, that's the bigger question. Yeah. Because while some people have had to face the long arm of the law, what happened with restitution? And we saw that some people were ordered to pay it, but do they still have the money? What did they do with it? It's a good point. That's a good point. I don't know. As a citizen, it makes me kind of mad that this is happening. Interesting.
I know.
I got you with the report though, huh? You didn't think this one was going to go that far today. You didn't.
No, I did not. And I like finding these, like, I like it when you or I or Thomas, like, we find these little nuggets that are kind of out there. And I know that you were like you're feeling a little sketchy about pushing this out and showing individuals. It just goes to show the power of good research and detective skills and how that really can help and play in understanding the whole entire picture, even like outside of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. So look, let me bring up this point too, since it is May Internal Audit Awareness Month. Internal auditors, you want to have a decent career, learn, first of all, the business and how business operates in general, but learn data analytics. Imagine how much value was gleaned from this because they analyzed some data. Now imagine if you are in a department doing data analysis. You become a valuable member of that department. Because again, no slight to the department. They found this, they reported it. Somehow it just got lost in the shuffle of the bureaucracy. And I imagine that the chief auditor got some pressure for doing his job, his or her, no, it wasn't him, for doing his job. I can almost guarantee you he got some pushback that was unnecessary. But yeah. It's all in the way we communicate too. This report is entirely too long. It doesn't get to the actual point, and it's in the way we communicate. Good job in finding it, communicate it better, follow up better. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, right?
And I'm just thinking about, well, the people that retired, lucky, still going to probably get your pension, unless I'm guessing somehow charges are brought against you. I don't know. I'm sure it takes a lot to prevent somebody, from getting access to a pension, even during this time. Like, I'm guessing it's a lot. But if you're one of those 60 employees, are you looking for a job because you're anticipating being let go eventually?
Yeah, that's wild.
Right. And then I kind of feel bad because it is like they made a $1,000 mistake. They might have made one $1,000 mistake and their job is on the line. And I think it's something that you and I talked before we kind of came on. Like, how many individuals did this actually end up impacting? And how did that many individuals think that this was okay? And it's this thing of, well, I do it all the time. Oh, you're hard up for cash? Hey, this is what I do. And I think sometimes that doesn't, like, oh, so-and-so is doing it. I know these other 10 individuals that are doing it. So not a very great way of looking at it.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you all for joining us this week on the Friday Fraudster. Look, if you really like this episode, I know, right? If you really like this episode, tell your friends about it, because I really think that this one extended beyond fraud and kind of dug into audit reporting, audit report writing, audit communications. And I think it's fitting for Internal Audit Awareness Month, especially for people whose friends and family think that all we do is look at numbers. We look at more than that. Again, kudos to the Office of Inspector General, but also admonishment at the same time. I'm not just being Debbie Downer. They did a good job in identifying this, but my goodness, it's been years since they identified it. What would happen with the follow-up? Oh boy, Muhammad.
I saw that question come up and I'm going, I wouldn't do it. Why did they ask you to reduce the sample size? What was their just cause for that?
Let's put the question up. He said he's got a question. Is it okay if the audit client asks to reduce the sample size, which for him is already small, less than 10% of the population? Why do they want you to reduce your sample size? Besides that, okay. Let's handle this in a few different ways, because I've got a lot more questions than I'm sorry. For those of you watching and listening, Muhammad answered the question I just asked, and he just said they were lazy. Okay. Let's go back to the question, though. Couple things. One, your client doesn't dictate your sample size. That's the whole reason you want it to be random. I'm assuming you had a random sample, right? That's the whole reason you want it to be random. Now, if they're saying to you that they don't have enough people to pull the supporting documentation that you want in order to do the sample, that's a judgment call on your behalf. I personally would not reduce my sample size if it's already small, because then if you actually do find something, they're going to say, well, this was just a small sample. It's not representative of our entire population. So you've got that coming. But my question is, besides them being lazy, let's dig down a little deeper, right? Root cause analysis. Why did they want you to reduce your sample size? You need to go back and figure out more because they were lazy. And I'm not even saying that you should do it. I'm just saying, don't you want to know why? Aren't you curious as to why now, since they've kind of raised this red flag? I know I would be curious as to exactly why do they want me to now reduce my sample size? Like, what's your reason? And then my answer would be no, but still.
I was going to say the only way I would even consider potentially reducing it is if there was a recent external audit that specifically applied towards that. So an example would be like if there was an ACH audit in financial institutions, and then I was doing a regulatory compliance, my sample size isn't going to be 10% or it's not going to be heavy on the ACH as long as I'm able to review that audit report. There's some consideration with there, or if they're capable of testing controls to make sure your controls are working, then that could potentially reduce your sample size that way, as long as you can test and know that the controls are working. Am I wrong in that approach, Rob?
Nah, I mean, anytime you can rely on the work of others, it's a good thing, but you got to be able to document why you feel comfortable relying on their work. But to me, anytime somebody asks to reduce a sample size, it's always a red flag. And I want to know your reason why, because sometimes, very rarely, it might make sense. Maybe they did just have another unit come in and audit the same thing. And if they did, show me that unit's report. Let me talk to them so that I can now get comfortable in what it is that I'm trying to audit now. But oftentimes, to me, that's a red flag just waving all over the place.
Yeah.
If they were lazy. I can't. Okay.
Well, I'm just laughing right now because, like, I can't. It has to do with work. They're just lazy.
But that's just wild.
They do know they're paying for these services, right? Like, that's the other thing that kills me. When you have a company that contracts you and they're paying money, you know, audits, external audit services aren't cheap. And it's one of those things, like sometimes it's changing the mindset of your corporation or company that you're working for. I'm thankful I do not have that issue at all. Is you're paying for this service. Like, you want these things to come out. It's only going to make you better. It might save you money in the end, even if it's a change in process or the way that you're doing something, or heck, your auditor might know automated control that can take over a very burdensome manual one. Like, get value out of the money you're spending.
Now look at this. Muhammad said he actually refused until his boss told him, okay, just reduce it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. And the thing too is, when I was a CAE, I don't know if I would just tell someone to reduce it without giving them the reason why. There would have to be a reason, because now my employee, because Muhammad probably feels this way, now my employee doesn't trust me and my judgment. Now my employee is like, well, why would you tell me to do these things and not give me the reason? There may be fraud out here. And now I feel uncomfortable working for this employer now. I would feel uncomfortable working with my boss after this if you didn't give me the reason behind it so that I could see your thought process.
That is
wow, never mind. He said they pay. Oh God, you can't be saying this, man. Hold on, wait, let me see. He said, yeah, they pay us to do, wait, darn it. He said, yeah, they pay us to do nothing just to show the board that proof that controls are in place. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. It's just,
I'm keeping my mouth shut.
I hope you don't get in trouble for saying that. Muhammad, I hope you don't get in trouble for saying that. But yeah, but you see what I mean? It erodes trust with your employees when they don't feel like they can actually do the job. When you don't tell them, hey, I decided to reduce the sample size and here's why. Dare I say, Muhammad probably doesn't really trust his boss right now. So, is what it is.
Yeah. And I've been in Muhammad's position before, not directly related to audits. I've had actions that I've done that were requested by executive team members actually questioned by me. And the only advice that I would ever give, if that little thing in those alarms go off in your head that's saying this conversation that's happening right now is morally or unethically. So, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're getting undue pressure to not do the job the way that you should be doing it or anything else, I would highly suggest speaking up. It's one thing to this day that I still regret that I did not speak up when I should have. Yeah. I'm not with them anymore.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Well, and also realize too that speaking up comes with consequences too. So just realize that. I've spoken up multiple times in my career and it never ends well for the person that speaks up. So you got to be ready to face the consequences too. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to go to sleep with a clear conscience, which I can say I can. I don't know about other people, but I can.
Well, in my situation was more, it did not affect the company that I worked for. It was more of a scare tactic on me is what it was. So by me not speaking up, it didn't put my company in any financial distress. It wasn't a regulatory or compliance issue that we had to deal with. It was just, I was being mean mugged. I guess that's the preferred way of saying it. And yeah, I just took it and said, all right, peace out. Like, not peace out, but like, if that's the way you feel, that's essentially is the way that I walked out, and I should have escalated it.
Yeah. I have escalated a few things. It gets real ugly when you do that. So, all right. So everyone, again, thank you for joining us this week. If you like this episode, spread it to all of your auditor friends, especially this one. I happen to think that this one was extremely good, not just from a fraud standpoint, but from an audit standpoint because of what we covered. And thank you, Muhammad, for that question. That was very interesting. And realize too that if you come to the live sessions of these podcasts, this one and Audit Bites, we get to have these kind of discussions through question and answer. So until next time, we'll see you all next week.
See ya.